reasons. I just want to document it like it is.
And Operation Cross Country, which has been going on as a subset of the up-to-date, current, ongoing, fluid exchange of intelligence, is critical because we know that the pimps take the young girls from city to city. So the girls think that there's some romantic interest by the gentlemen that are involved in this, which causes them to go with these guys. And then they realize later that the true purpose isn't love, but for them to be put into the situation where they will prostitute themselves to earn money for the predators who have taken advantage of them. The money involved in prostituting children is much higher than just regular prostitution. So they get them. The desire by the Johns, if you will, is for younger and younger girls. So, I mean, we're seeing them as young as 11 years old. And they've used technology. So they're putting the ads out there on, Facebook and MySpace and any of the other social engineering sites. Clearly, they're using that. Any technology out there, whether it be the BlackBerry.
All right, so this is at the height of Barack Obama's first term. All right, this was made 16 years ago. It's 2026. This was made in 2010. Barack Obama was in office 2 years. All right. And understand, this came up in connection to a search about the Franklin scandal. Barack Obama's administration is the new Franklin scandal.
Are you a business owner who can't afford to invest in growth? Well, if you own a business that makes at least $200K per year in
a lot of other, and found lots of victims and interviewed them. And it was...
This is the story of Lawrence King, right?
Yes, Lawrence King.
Which is a horrible, horrible story.
Great expense, yes. And so I spent 7 years on that. And then the book came out and no one wanted to touch it. I mean... I live in New York City. I live in the epicenter, the mecca of media. And I have had a lot of friends in the media. And I thought, well, I know so many people in the media that certainly they're going to help me. And I was only helped by one person, and which kind of surprised me, Malachi McCourt. He's a fairly famous author. And Malachi and I were pretty good buddies. And he was the only one that really tried to help me, and then it just kind of withered.
Why? Because this is real. This is what they do. And they couldn't silence the man totally. They couldn't kill him. They couldn't make him disappear. And after doing all of that work and writing a book, he was going to go somewhere and publish it. But he's in New York with the truth of what they did at the White House. Jeffrey Epstein is nothing compared to what they had going at the White House. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Ronald Reagan, George H.W. Bush in the White House. Children, sex, ring. Let's go. Where y'all at? Where y'all at? And they daddy, Prescott Bush. See, the reason that George H.W. Bush did it is because they daddy, Prescott Bush, was the #1 banker that funded Adolf Hitler. They made their family money doing like the Rothschilds did by being a prominent family in the US, but then investing in Adolf Hitler's war because their family comes from Germany. So they are going to help the German leader kill whoever he's going to kill, and they just want to be able to profit off of it. And so because Prescott Bush was in bed with Hitler and the sexual atrocities that Hitler and his people, the sexual atrocities that they did in those concentration camps, that they did on the battlefield, and they did when they came across the people in their homes. Unbelievable.
And I mean, I was on some podcast with crazy people talking about the Illuminati and shape-shifting reptilians and things like that. It was very demoralizing at that point to spend that much time.
Why do you think they didn't have interest? And by the way, for maybe the average person that doesn't know about the Franklin cover-up, the Community Federal Credit Union and Lawrence King, maybe share that story a little bit, because it is a very controversial story.
Well, in the 1980s, Lawrence King of Omaha ran a child trafficking network with Craig Spence of Washington, D.C. And they would fly kids mostly from Omaha. They would get a lot of kids from the orphanage Boys Town. And then they'd fly them to D.C. And at D.C., there was Craig Spence's party house that was wired for audiovisual blackmail. And if someone decided to partake of any illicit goods at Spence's home, they would be blackmailed. And Spence was a CIA asset. All his, I wrote a second book called Confessions of a DC Man, The Politics of Sex, Lies, and Blackmail, about a guy who ran a gay escort service.
So, the CIA used this child sex ring to blackmail U.S. politicians to do the bidding that they want in Washington, D.C. That's what he just explained. So the black dude from Omaha, the banker, will fly them into D.C. And the man in D.C. was a CIA asset, so he worked for the CIA. So any politician that came through there and had sex with the boys, they were taped and then blackmailed. So it's no telling. This is how they fund wars. This is how they manufacture wars. This is how they profit off of both sides of both wars. Because when they get enough dirt on individuals who can vote in Congress, then if there is an oil field over here in this part of the world that they just need a diversion of a war, then they call in one of the blackmail tickets and they get the senator or the congressman or a combination of both, congressmen and senators, to authorize and write the bill and push it through Congress and get it stamped of war. And he just happened to document the abuse of the boys caught up in this sex trafficking ring.
And Spence used his escorts to compromise closeted politicians. So I've written 2 books that pertain to Craig Spence. And there was a Nebraska Senate subcommittee that tried to get to the bottom of what was happening, but
So he used his footage to expose closeted politicians. Wow.
were rolled over by federal firepower, much like what we've seen with Epstein, with corrupt grand juries and the Department of Justice being corrupt. So ultimately, what happened there was these grand juries, there were 2 grand juries, and I don't know if your audience is familiar with how grand juries work, because this will also come up with Epstein. A special prosecutor is chosen to oversee a grand jury, and he or she presents evidence to the grand jurors that he or she deems important, and also calls the witnesses. So whatever and grand jurors are just citizens that have shown up for jury duty, and they've been found to a grand jury. When we hear the term grand jury, we think like the gods of jurisprudence have spoken for Mount Olympus, but actually grand jurors are just citizens that have been found to a grand jury. And the special prosecutor has so much sway over the grand jurors that there's a famous quip from a New York Supreme Court judge that says, special prosecutors could get grand jurors to indict a ham sandwich. And that's what happened with the Franklin network. That's what happened with the Franklin grand juries. And that's also what happened with the Epstein grand jury. Except with the Franklin grand juries, the kids that wouldn't recant, the FBI came in and got most of the kids to recant. The kids that wouldn't recant, there were 2 of them, were indicted for perjury. Paul Benassi was indicted on 3 counts of perjury. He was looking at 60 years. Alicia Owen was indicted on 8 counts of perjury from a state grand jury and 8 counts of perjury from a federal grand jury. And she was looking at 200 years. And she still refused to recant. Actually, both of them refused to recant. And Alicia was fed to a kangaroo court. And now here's a kid that came forward when she's 20 years old. They gave her 9 to 15 years in prison for perjury. And then the authorities really tried to destroy her. They put her in solitary confinement for 2 years, nearly 2 years, to be punitive. And actually what's amazing is Alicia has somehow survived and is flourishing in life, which...
Is she still openly talking about it, or just kind of moved on and doesn't want to talk about it?
Well, actually, I started a nonprofit 501c3 called Epstein Justice. And we want 2 simple things. We want to know why the government is covering up child abuse. If you cover up a crime, you're aiding and abetting that crime. So we want to know why the government is aiding and abetting child abuse. And
She's the one right there, Alicia Owen.
That is Alicia. And we want the perpetrators to be prosecuted, and Alicia is an associate director of Epstein Justice.
Wow. So now, to give a little bit of context on the Franklin cover-up. So Lawrence King is coming up in a Republican Party. He's a superstar. He sang at the 1984 and 88 RNC.
1984, yeah.
1984, yeah. He sang. So, people are looking at this guy as a superstar, potentially. Who knows what's going to happen with him. And then there's the $30-40 million scam, which he goes away.
1984, 1988. It's the height of the crack epidemic that Ronald Reagan and George H.W. Bush artificially manufactured themselves against our community specifically. Mandatory minimums for crack. And at these parties, they are doing cocaine. And so they excuse the cocaine that they're doing themselves. Ronald Reagan and H.W. Bush. George H.W. Bush. 84, 88. Ronald Reagan was president first. George H.W. Bush was his vice president. Then H.W. Bush becomes president for 8 years. And while they're buying guns from Iran, trafficking the guns, and giving them to the communists in South America called the Sandinistas, remember, they fund both sides of the war. So not only did they fund the communists, then they went to the U.S. and got the CIA and the DEA, drug enforcement agencies, and the military to go fight against the Sandinistas, which they weaponized through Iran instead of Huntsville this time. Then once the Sandinistas cooked up the cocaine for them to use in their parties, Ronald Reagan and George Bush said, let's let the gangs that we created in LA sell the drugs in LA for us. Let's create a pipeline in Miami, Florida, through the godmother, last name is Blanco. She gave birth to Pablo Escobar, who they made the movie Scarface about. But they made the movie The Godfather. That's really the godmother. So Godfather 1, 2, and 3 is on the life of the drug trafficking. And this Ronald Reagan and George H.W. Bush created all of these individuals. The drug trade in Colombia, the drug trade in the Sandinistas, and this is the black dude in 84 and 88 who was getting the boys from Boys Town. This is the 1984, 1988 Barack Obama. And so in 84 and 88, Barack Obama, Bill Clinton, George W. Bush, Joe Biden, all of them were at the universities. They are the individuals who their daddies was bringing these boys to DC to party with. Barack Obama daddy was at Harvard, involved in all of this garbage. So when the 80s come around and they sons, Barack Obama daddy was in Harvard in the 60s. So in the 80s, when they in college, who you think are the ones sleeping with the little boys? And it's only the part of the network that went to DC to this house that the CIA is documenting. The rest of the network that's going up to the Hamptons, they just doing it for the freak offs. They not doing this is just the branch of the CIA that was using blackmail to get politicians to do what the CIA wanted. But all of the other branches, they was just engaged in the freak off itself. Once again, all of these Ivy League colleges party in the Hamptons. And if they got these pipeline of these children coming across the country, coming up north to DC, the party spot is the Hamptons. That's this party spot. Once they get them to DC, you simply put them on the subway, get them up to the Hamptons, and that's when all of these individuals, they got they clandestine houses, they got real estate, they got top secret properties off limits to the public. So once they get them off that train into the Hamptons, oh, it's on and popping. Now they want to put in a system where they could really wipe the brain clean so can't nobody tell their stories. Yo, if Elon Musk, and this is a type of investment, okay? It's called short selling. All right? It's called short selling. There is a young lady that specializes in this. So short selling is usually used against the big pharmaceutical companies because they feel they too big to fail, right? They feel they too big, they make so much money, they'll just pay a little fine in the courts and they'll make problems go away, right? So they engage in practices with they pills that harm individuals or that exploit individuals because they know they got medicine that is life or death. And so they'll hike up the price of the medicine astronomically just to be able to make the most money from selling that pill. They go through their database and they find a pill that's life or death that the people, if they don't have it, they will die. And then they hike that pill up thousands and thousands of dollars. And then the people, they can't even afford it. And so the pharmaceutical company know before they hike the price up that it's life or death. And if they don't have it, they die, but they hike it up anyway, knowing that they can't afford it. And so then there's individuals who engage in short selling, which is taking this type of information to the public so that they could close down these companies for preying on our people. So I'm doing the same thing right here that they do on Wall Street with short selling these companies that do these type of things. And I'm just saying it's time to it's trying to short sell Washington, D.C. It's trying to short sell Elon Musk and SpaceX, which means they don't get to operate no more. They don't get to conduct business no more because the business that they conducting is a violation. The White House don't get to violate anymore because each and every generation they keep going back to these sanctuary trafficking of young people. And so we're not having it no more.
For the money, but nothing related to the events that were taking place with underage kids and, you know, the sex and all the stuff that's the scandal that was happening with this, right? Could you give a little bit more context about the story of Franklin cover-up?
Excuse me, sir. How old were you when you made your first million?
What is this for?
We're trying to get advice for the younger generation.
Well, Lawrence King ran the Franklin Credit Union in Omaha, Nebraska, and he used that as a front for his child trafficking network. And what happened was he was able to stave off federal audits for a number of years, I think 4, and then he was audited and he came up $40 million short. So a Nebraska subcommittee formed to look at his looting of the Franklin Credit Union because he hadn't been audited in a while. But then when they started to form, people in social services came to them and they said, King is running a nationwide pedophile network. And they'd had various reports about King running a nationwide pedophile network. So then the subcommittee started to look at those allegations too. And they had an amazing investigator. His name was Gary Caradori. And he found a number of victims. Actually, I had his records, and he had a list of 60 victims. And that was my job, was to find these victims and get them to talk when I wrote the Franklin Scale. And a lot of the victims don't really use Social Security numbers. They're marginalized. They've come from lower socioeconomic dysfunctional backgrounds. They've been molested repeatedly, and drugs was always the carrot for most of them. So they were given drugs, and then at a certain point, they lost their youthful marketability, and then they were just expunged by the network. And so ultimately, what you have there is a very dysfunctional individual.
Okay, so did you hear what he said? Over 60 people, low socioeconomic background, abused and molested repeatedly, given drugs, brought into the child sex prostitution ring until they had no more marketability or value. Bodies was used up. So then they were expunged from the system. You're not getting no more drugs. You're not getting no nothing. Over 60 something individuals. And then the 2 that would not recant and say that that didn't happen, they charged them for perjury. And they locked the one girl up. They locked her up. And when she was locked up, they tried to break her and put her in solitary confinement, he said, for 2 years. And she still survived and came out, and he gave her a job in a nonprofit organization to help other victims who go through this. This happened in 1984, 1988, right here in the United States. Washington, D.C. was not held accountable. Nobody's held accountable. So you tell these presidents that go into the White House knowing that this is what presidents do up there, that it's okay for them to do this type of stuff. So that's why we had to intervene. Because y'all drinking the Kool-Aid, y'all would never, ever stop them. But they ain't going to harm not another victim. So now let me show y'all something. Let me show y'all something. Let me show y'all something. Obviously, Barack Obama and Donald Trump and the White House, and honestly, they think we playing. They think it's a game. They think we playing with them. Donald Trump really think we playing with them. They think it's a game. The Bush family, Bill Clinton, Barack Obama, they think it's a game. They think it's a game. So I showed y'all that the US dollar has no value. All right? I showed y'all, and I've been showing y'all. And we've been preparing for this for years. All right? So I showed y'all how much the US dollar was worth, $33 in 1912. All right? And $1 US is worth a penny right now. Okay? 1 penny. So however many dollars you tell yourself that you make an hour going to work, that's how many pennies you make. So if you talking about you work for the minimum wage and you make $15 an hour, you make 15 pennies an hour. So next time you go get on the clock, thanks to Obama and Trump, Obama started this with the too big to fail the Bush, George H.W. Bush, George H.W. Bush, George H.W. Bush was the one who began the everlasting wars chasing the fake boogeyman that they created called ISIS. When ISIS is their religious system of the worship of the goddess of Egypt called Isis. But what better way to fund both sides of a war than a never-ending war that you've artificially manufactured in all of these artificial countries that the U.S. and England artificially manufactured? Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Iran, all of the Arab countries, all of the Arabian countries, Arabic countries, they're all artificially manufactured after World War II by England and the U.S. All right, so what better way to profit off of war than to control both sides? Then you predict the outcome. You say when war stops, and you always making profit. You always profiting. Right? So then we launched a coin. Where you could convert your worthless US dollars into Havila gold ounces. So where the Havila gold ounces is introduced, the Messiah introduced it to you in the parable of the 5 golden talents. The parable of the 5 golden talents. The Havila gold hollow coins was introduced. And then in Luke, I believe it's 13, in the parable of the woman with the lost coin, the Havila silver hollow coins is introduced with the lady with the lost coin. Now, the lady in the parable represents the wealthiest people in the nation because they only carried a certain currency. The people carried a coin that was called a pence, or no, a mite. A mite. And when the old lady threw in her 2 coins, it was 2 mites. And the master said she gave more than everybody there. So the poor people, they carried a certain coin. Because it's just like dollar bills. You could go to the bank and you could get $1,000 bill. But how many people do you see walking around with $1,000 bill? Very few. Because if they're going to the gas station, there ain't nothing in there costs no $1,000. So they not about to break no $1,000. So they carry the denominations of currency based off of where they shopping at. Now, a person that's spending top dollar, they gonna carry the $1,000 bills. So they only got to give 2 bills or so. If something is like $2,500, they gonna give them 3 bills and they gonna give them $500 back in change, and that's that. But if you had to count out $2,500 in tens or $2,500 in fives, You know what I'm saying? That's too much money to be carrying around. So depending on the amount of money you have and where you shopping at dictates the type of currency you would carry. Same thing here. When you rich and you buying chariots and you buying real estate or whatever, you carrying Havilah hollow coins and Havilah silver coins. This comes out of the word of God. We not Elon Musk with some fake novelty Dogecoin. Nah, we not that. We not Donald Trump with some fake Trump coin. Nah, we not that. We better than that. We way better than that. Which means when you invest in our coin, you're investing in real gold, real silver. Same time I told y'all this was the day that gold reached its highest this year. It was over $5,000. And so now look what they doing. Look what they doing. The price of gold is at all-time high levels. There has never been a better time to sell your gold jewelry. So they want you to take gold, which is at its all-time high in value. Sell them your jewelry that's worth that value, and they're going to give you worthless dollars. You're going to give us the gold that's the most value that it's ever been before. And we in turn are going to give you back worthless dollars in exchange for your gold. How stupid do our people have to be? If you did have gold, the wise person would say, well, if it's up this high, is it going even higher? So why would you sell? And why would you sell it for something called the US dollar, which is at its most vulnerable point? And the reason why they're trying to buy the gold and trying to get rid of the cash is because if the cash loses all of its value, then they are out of all of the cash that they have. So they want you to have the cash and they want your gold. This is an admission that they believe that their economy is about to crash. Whenever you see them advertising publicly that they're buying gold, this is the powers that be, the financial people saying one thing happens bad with the oil, since the dollar is pegged to the oil. If one negative thing happens and the dollar loses all of its value, that means it doesn't matter how many dollars you have in the bank. If the dollar loses all of its value, all of the money in the bank is worthless. Y'all see that, right? So this is how much. So we reverse this. We're doing the opposite. They're saying the price of gold is at an all-time high. Sell us your gold and we're going to give you worthless cash. And you know what I'm saying? The price of gold is at an all-time high. Bring us your worthless cash and we're going to immediately increase how much of that cash you have equal to Havilah gold and Havilah silver that we will hold for you on your behalf and give you a paper equivalent stating that you converted your cash into Havilah gold and silver. We will hold the physical gold and we will give you paper receipt of what you have in the bank. And you can spend the paper receipt wherever you go. This is how much the exchange is. For $5, you get 99. You get equal to $99 in Havilah gold and silver. For $10, no, I'm sorry. For $5, you get $495 worth of Havilah gold and silver. That's how much more value that a $5 bill and $5 Havilah bill in comparison to $5 US. Our $5 Havilah bill is worth $495 compared to the $5 USA dollar, US dollar. $10, you got, if you come spend $10 with us today, you get $990. If you spend $15 with us today, you get $1,485. $20, you get $1,980. $50, you get $4,950. I'm gonna show you straight up and down that these cats can't mess with us in no way, shape, or form. Now Elon Musk, now I've been showing y'all now Elon Musk gonna try and do what it is we doing. Watch this. Watch this.
CNBC called it the big market event of 2026. Elon Musk has confirmed he will soon take SpaceX public in what's set to be the biggest IPO in history. But according to former tech executive and investing legend Jeff Brown, this is not about launching rockets to Mars or satellite internet or anything else you've probably heard in the media. It's actually much bigger than that.
Yeah, mind control. So what Elon Musk is trying to do, blood mind control. He trying to get you to be a willing participant in funding their when they sell shares. That means every one of you that invest in that, you are also guilty of victimizing the individuals going through the program. It's bigger than space. It only had nothing to do with SpaceX. SpaceX is the front. Remember, the dude from Omaha, the banker, they always use financial billionaires. Bill Gates, same thing with Bill Gates. And Bill Gates was going out there with Donald Trump, with Epstein. Remember, the banker in Omaha used the credit, the bank, as his front operation. SpaceX is a front.
Because this IPO is a key part of Elon Musk's secret AI master plan, a plan that's going to unlock the full power of artificial intelligence, unleashing what Musk is predicting will be a $1 quadrillion new wealth wave. Now, I'm going to put that into perspective. That would be enough to send a check for $2.8 million to every single American.
Get your math up, homie. 1 quadrillion, that's it? So we issued so the Havilah is the land where the purest gold on earth, the gold of Ophir, the greatest documented collection of the gold of Ophir, the Queen of Sheba, when she came to worship, when the temple was built, she sailed up the Nile River. The where? The Nile River. Okay, we already got the identity of what the Queen of Sheba is. Nile River. Okay. The greatest display of wealth in history. So we're not impressed by Elon Musk. We're not impressed by Bill Gates or Donald Trump. The greatest display of wealth ever documented in world history was an offering that was made. So even if the offering was 10%, it was 90% more of where it all came from. Even if the offering was 20% of her wealth, it's 80% more where that came from. And that was the greatest display of wealth that the earth has ever seen. And it was only a portion of what she had. But then the text in the word says she brought 300 solid gold of Havilah shields that were 6 foot tall to cover the body length of any soldier that carried it. And a part of her offering that she gave to the king, because every king potentially is could potentially go to war. So this was designed to be the special shields for the most special secret service that the king had in his army. And then, so that you would know how much wealth it was worth, it calculates the weight of those 300 shields. And when we calculated, because you measure gold in the ounces, the price of gold is set by the ounce of what it weighs. So whenever you take gold and you break down how much it weighs, you also are breaking down how much it costs. And so those 300 spears was worth a fortune in the 100% pure Havilah gold. And so, on the scale, on the number scale, a Havilah is a 1 with 69 zeros behind it. So Elon Musk think we impressed with $2,800,000. You take a $20 bill and you convert it into our Havilah bills. $20 is almost $2,000. And we have already issued 1,600 Havilah hollow coins for 7 billion people on Earth. 1,600 hollow coins apiece. Millions of dollars. And all you got to do is stake your claim and come and convert the cash that you have currently as much as possible we expect everybody to exchange dollar for dollar. So if we issue 1,600 hollow coins, we expect $1,600 minimum for you to convert in order to seal the deal with us. And over time, you could spread out the $1,600. You could spread it out however you need to. But you can't be in the system unless you convert dollars into our coins. And we expect everybody to convert a minimum of $1,600. So that's why we issued 1,600 coins. We expect you to convert with us $1,600. You may only have $100 right now. So you convert what you have at the time. We keep a record of it. So we are going to short sell. Every day we're going to show you the diabolical White House administration that has participated in mind control, sex trafficking of adults and children connected to each and every president living currently. And especially the dead one that just died a little while ago, George H.W. Bush. So to the Bush family and to Texas and to everybody who keeps wanting to talk about Texas, we got something for Texas. A no more trauma movement for the Bush family, sex trafficking ring of children and women. We got the same response for the Bill Clinton, sex trafficking ring connected to his time in the White House. And for Obama, and for Biden, and for Trump. Donald Trump guilty of the whole time of every single thing that Epstein did. Donald Trump is guilty of, just like everything Puff Daddy did. Jay-Z is guilty all day, every day. 50 Cent is guilty. Snoop Dogg is guilty every day. Every single thing that Puff Daddy did. In order to be at the table, they all had to participate in what Puffy did to get where they at.
That is how big this opportunity is. And in the next 2 minutes, tech investing legend Jeff Brown, the man who picked Bitcoin, Tesla, and NVIDIA before they exploded higher, is going to show you how to claim your stake before SpaceX goes public in what's set to be the biggest AI IPO ever. And you don't need to have connections in Silicon Valley. You don't need to be an accredited investor, and you don't need to be rich. In fact, you can get started with as little as $500 right from your computer. And Elon Musk is actually predicting those who do get in today are going to have a chance to turn that $500 into $500,000. So please pay close attention, because no other market event creates more overnight wealth.
They ain't talking about no money.
Tech company going public.
They ain't talking about no money. We got the greatest tech company. Seer VR, Seek AR. where we're using virtual reality and augmented reality to cure the need in paying patients to abuse opioids. To cure the same industry that he going into to put brain chips and control your mind. We can use the technology of virtual reality and augmented reality to help the same individuals with those same brain diseases without ever tapping into and taking control of their mind. You could take a patient who's struggling with Alzheimer's, struggling with Lou Gehrig's disease, ALS, struggling with MS, Parkinson's, all of these diseases, all of these brain diseases. Instead of letting somebody invasively cut into your brain and control your brain, no, never. Nobody in the world should ever submit to anybody invasively, and nobody who actively tells people that they're engaging in that, because you don't have the ability to check. And because Washington, D.C. has no morals, and because Barack Obama and the presidents have no morals, it is no telling how many individuals have been sex trafficked into the pipeline from Obama and D.C. into Elon Musk's program. It's no telling how many individuals have been abused and are being abused right now. Because if Obama gave him that many billions when he, at the end of his term in office, shoot, we done been through 4 years of Donald Trump, a Biden administration, and then back to Trump. It's no telling how many women and children and men are being victimized right now. But our goal is to find out. Our goal is to shut it down.
For example, early investors who got in at the pre-IPO stage had a chance to turn $1,000 into more than $1 million in Facebook when that company went public. More than $1.6 million in Uber on its IPO day, and more than $2.3 million in Google the day that company went public.
All right, so an IPO it's the launch. It's the first day that they launched it and made it available for the general public to invest in it. And we've done the same thing with our coin. We've launched it. We've launched the technology. We launched the app and the phone. And so now, this right here shows you the power of what it is we just done. Google, when they launched their technology, in 24 hours, $1,000 grew to 2.3 million. When we issue you your Havelock Hollow coins, because we already issued you 1,600, we've issued you millions of dollars already. What we have done is we've given poor people the opportunity to flip the slums, and all you got to do is claim your Havelock Hollow coins. All you got to do is claim it and go through the process with us to document and launch the app, the exchange, and all of the technology that I talked about. And that's what we're raising the funds for, to invest in the technology, to develop the simulations and all that. So when you give us the cash, we're going to give you your Havila hollow coins, Havila silver and gold coins. And then we're going to take all of the money that we raise and invest it in the technology and invest it in what we just talked about.
So imagine one day you're living your normal life, 24 hours go by, the company goes public, and everything has changed. You now have complete financial freedom to do everything and anything you want for the rest of your life, for decades. These wealth building opportunities were once reserved for rich insiders and the Silicon Valley elite. Everyday
You will never see another opportunity like the opportunity that we've given you. I encourage you, I invite you today to begin converting your cash with us.
folks on Main Street, no way, locked out, left with table scraps. That changes today, my friends, because angel investor and former tech executive Jeff Brown is going to show you how to claim your stake in what he's calling the biggest artificial intelligence IPO in history before it goes public. He believes Elon Musk could officially file the paperwork by the end of this month. We've got no time to waste here. Hi, everybody. I'm Chris Hurt, and in this
Y'all heard it? Y'all heard it? All right, so y'all heard it here first. Elon Musk and Barack Obama and them trying to do what it is we do. They trying to do what it is we do. So, I guess it's his public offering where they're going to relaunch the CIA operation of mind control, drug trafficking, and sex trafficking. They're going to reopen the Iran-Contra scandal. And they believe you're going to come and spend money with them. They think American people are stupid. So we're going to see. Hopefully y'all come over here today and get your coins. Hopefully today is the day where y'all will exchange those dollars for these coins and turn your whole financial life around. Peace.